Welcome to the Wisdom Tree Institute's FAQ series, where we answer some of the most frequently asked questions that our students have, as well as community members commenting on YouTube. So the question for today is, how can one protect themselves from people who are deliberately doing energy harvesting, as well as taking on other people's life force? So this is often a question that many empaths and sensitive people have, and you might notice this, that when you are hanging around in your social circle, that there's certain people that the more you hang out with, they enliven you, as well as other people, it's almost like they're sucking your energy out of you, and you just feel so drained afterwards. So there is a whole school of cultivation called psychic protection, and this is something that I try to incorporate in the Art of Qi program. However, before getting into psychic protection and the art of protecting your subtle energy body, I would strongly encourage you to actually do a self-assessment into your own black mirrors, or what you could consider as your shadow expressions. Because oftentimes, the reason why you're leaking out energy, it may not actually have anything to do with the person that is causing you to be tired, but rather you're simply getting triggered because of your own shadows. You know, the typical person that when external things happen to them, they almost have this external locus of control. They extend their desire to control beyond themselves, and they want to control other people. And when people don't do what they want to do, it exhausts them. Or if they have a lot of judgment that you project onto how other people should live their lives and why they're inadequate, and you have these egoic, judgmental perspectives onto others, it gets really exhausting quick. Especially if you're cultivating and you're on this path of ascension, and you come in with this egoic sense that you're superior than other people, and that the way you live your life, the way you cultivate, is the only way to go about it, then there's all of these judgment that is going to loop back to you in a negative reinforcement, and you're going to feel the repercussion of that in your own exhaustion. Everyone has their own path, so it's not really up to you to judge how far you are along your path versus someone else, and even compare these circumstances. So if you feel like you're not doing that right now, then you want to look into protecting yourself, because people might be subconsciously or consciously stealing and vampiring out your energy. There's the conscious desire to pull people's energy, and now this is probably the most maleficent. These are people that are training the energy arts in some capacity, and they crave this desire, and they believe that in order to actually get more energy, they need to pull it from other people. And this is really what we call black magic. If you study the science and the mechanism of how to do this, it's very obvious that those in power, this is what they're doing. They're harvesting one's energy. And the reason for that is because they don't serve this ascension path, they don't actually have connection to universal infinite energy and spiritual energy that one would have if they serve this streamline of ascension energy, whether it's the Tao, Christ consciousness, whatever it is. But you get this infinite source of flow, and your body no longer needs to see itself as a finite bucket that constantly needs to be filled by other people's energy, and you're able to pull that from the higher hierarchy that supports ascension, the process of expanding consciousness. You tune into that frequency and you get that energy from that in order to do the service that you have, which is aligned to that purpose. Let's talk a little bit more about psychic protection. Let me give you a couple of practical ways of doing it. So the first way of doing it is you simply just go into a meditative stillness, and when you have your eyes closed, you want to imagine this field in your body. So I've heard of different ways of doing it. You can imagine like a cone shape around you, a shape of light, or even like a beam of light coming down. Other people, I see them accessing it through their crown and using a pyramid scheme, and it seems to produce a bit more structure as a pyramid. And each one of these protection fields that you can set up in the astral field, it has different qualities. The pyramid, it's much more grounded, whereas if you have more of a field of light around you, almost like a second skin, it's a bit more versatile. So you can work with different qualities of this, and essentially you want to just charge it up before a session. So the more intentionality you give to it, the more of your consciousness you can focus on it, and even your ability to focus, that's a skill set. With an advanced practitioner, their field will be much stronger than someone that's doing this for the first time. Energy goes where attention goes. So if you focus and you can have really strong visualization skills, and you can develop really solid structures around you that ends up providing protection. And in the astral world, light frequency is a higher vibratory frequency than obviously the shadow. So whatever shadow entities are out there, they're naturally afraid, and they don't want to come near. They're repelled by the light, because the light just releases out the shadows. So those are a couple of ways of doing it. Now I'm going to go a little bit more into what we do at the Art of Qi and how I train psychic protection. I would say those aspects may be good for someone that's not really tampering into the energetics and working with people's energies as much. So for example, if you're a healer by profession, if you're constantly exposed to different people's energy, and you're in an environment where people's energy is very easily opened up, you want to have a stronger protection field. So with that, it actually requires some sort of stress testing and training. So at the Art of Qi, what we do is we have an exercise called psychic attack and defense. We start off with something very similar to Tai Chi push hands, where there's two partners and their job is to affect one another physically while tuning into different energetic frequencies. And eventually they're going to understand that there's different energies that would trump other energies. It's almost like a game of rock, paper, scissors. So first they would go up the vibrational scale of the vital life force, the Jing, the electric magnetism, and tune their body into this quality of vitality and try to affect someone's movement with this vital life force. And then we move up into the astral realm and try to affect on an emotional level. And what you're gonna end up seeing is that someone who is using raw force versus someone who is in that soft state, the person in the soft state can actually win out and outperform in this specific exercise the person that's just using raw force, given that they have the same amount of muscle mass and everything else being the same. So even though you might be working with a partner who's much stronger than you, you too can actually feel the difference in how much one will struggle in this type of exercise. So the purpose of doing this isn't really to see who wins, but it's for both parties to practice their ability to sense energy and to tune into that frequency on a physical level. Now, when one develops this and is able to tune in on a physical level, then we actually release form altogether. And then we would practice an exercise that I call psychic attack and defense, whereby there's two partners and they're basically just have one touch point, usually their hands. So they would connect to each other by their hands. And oftentimes from the outsider, this looks quite strange because you have these two participants and they're just connecting by the hand. And it kind of looks like they're just standing there. And oftentimes they could be doing this for 40 minutes to an hour. But for the two participants, it's actually incredibly interactive because the game is that one person plays the role of defense, one person plays the role of attack. So the defending person, they have to strengthen their subtle field and their energy enough that no one can penetrate that field. Now, in terms of energy vampirism and taking people's energy, you can't take someone's energy if you can't penetrate their field. So this is exactly what we're practicing. There's many different methods, and some methods are stronger than other methods. Some methods use up more energy than other methods. But basically, they're creating this defense system, and the person that's attacking, they're training their power, their ability to penetrate one's field despite the defense. And why that's important, yes, it has a martial implication. You can use your own energy to overpower the opponent. But simultaneously, often when you work with someone on a healing basis, you might be working on a premise of entity extraction or working into someone's past trauma. And when you open that up, there could be a lot of offensive energy. Maybe the highest version of the patient wants you to solve it, but their subconscious is so protective of that trauma that it starts lashing out at you. And this isn't like physically the patient lashes out, but you can feel this maleficent desire to harm. So when you release someone's emotional body, sometimes you get these aspects. So when you train how to use power and how to overcome the defense system, you're also training a healing quality of how to overcome an entity's defense system to bypass their defense in order to release them and to extract them out of specific patients. So all of these skills, it kind of connects, right? This is why the internal art can be manifested in the 10,000 things in so many different avenues of how you would serve the world. So this is a really fun exercise. Why this exercise is important is because I can give so many different ways of defending yourself energetically to students, but it's much stronger for students to actually develop the experience of using each one of them and understanding experientially what is the difference of each one of the defense, which one is stronger, and when to use which most appropriately, because some are actually quite costly, right? And whether it's costly in time of preparing it or costly of energy of even keeping that barrier up. So again, there's different methods that students can use. In our class, when students are attuned to the non-dual light, they can stream that through their body, and that acts like a protection mechanism as well. They can stream from the transpersonal streaming light while pulling earth upwards, and that creates almost like a centralizing quality that does not allow people to bifurcate and to move your matrices and to move the three bodies, right? It's like everything's tight like a guitar string, so they can't impact it as much. I've had other teachers that taught me how to create an astral temple. So you create this temple and you reinforce it in your imagination so that it's only yours and no one else has access or keys in order to access this sacred environment for you. And for example, if someone does get access and penetrate your field and they're continually siphoning energy even after they leave, and you feel like your thoughts are coming back to this person, whether it's like a perpetrator, a business partner, someone who's drastically affected your life, a parental figure, or a past lover, there's a mechanism where you can cut astral cords and remove astral cord extraction. This is another way to release the hold that other people will have on you. And when we go into more advanced practices, then we work with building elemental spheres. So you first need to learn how to develop the torus field and how to strengthen that around you. And then you would put different elemental qualities to that. And each one of the elemental qualities actually gives you a different type of defense. So you can have like a fire defense, a fire sphere, which basically any entity or any consciousness that tries to touch it, it gets burned off of it. And it's quite offensive. Now, it acts like a great support, but number one, it burns off your willpower, so it's a bit exhausting. And number two is that if you have this field around you, it makes you a bit unapproachable. So when other people see you, they almost like subconsciously get this desire to run away, especially those who don't have a lot of fire in themselves. They will feel almost like, oh, this person's like way too much for me. Or vice versa, if someone who's like an alpha male who exhibits a lot of fire quality themselves, they might see you as a threat and then they might want to be more combative with you. Whereas if you have water, you can build this water field and then essentially it neutralizes the energy around you and then it harmonizes it. So it's a bit more passive in the way it builds protection for you. And it's a bit more forgiving for those who wants to penetrate. It just mellows the intention out. You can have this air where it's like your boundary is completely open, but whatever comes in your field, it continuously gets in a space of release. So it's like you're having things in your field, but it's releasing simultaneously. It's just that release process happens faster than anything trying to penetrate your field. So any intentionality immediately gets released out. The purpose with the earth is it's quite liberating to, like, you want to feel like you're still very open to people. You can sense all the stuff around you, but simultaneously you have this defense. And lastly, we have the earth defense. We create the earth sphere. And this is probably the hardest thing to penetrate because it's just so dense. But simultaneously, you would bring that out at the expense of your own ability to sense what's actually happening around you. So you might not even know that you're getting attacked. Whereas the air, it's very obvious if someone's trying to temper into your field. So the earth, you get a stronger defense, but at the expense of your own awareness about what people are doing around you and their intentions. Ultimately, the next step with this cultivation is you want to build like all four spheres simultaneously, and you want to pull that into your etheric field. This is a much more advanced practice that we will get into if a student is really challenged with feeling like they're getting energy zapped out of them, then this is something that I will teach them. And having all four elements, it balances that field. It gives you equanimity while having a much stronger fortification than any other individual sphere. The key to this transmission is you don't want to just stack multiple elements because it gets a bit messy and one element cancels out the other. So like water cancels out fire, air cancels out earth. So when you stack them like that without any medium to absorb, to integrate it, then it just kind of neutralizes itself and it doesn't work as properly. So what you want to do is you want to build an etheric buffer around each of the elemental spheres and have it essentially be absorbed into your etheric body so that it's operating on a higher law that each element can exist individually by themselves, but also coordinate and harmonize all together within the ether itself, as all elements comes from the etheric principle. So this is a much more advanced shielding, obviously, and I find it's hard to build. Like in one sit, it'll take you like 40 to 50 minutes, but then once you build that out, you're unstoppable when you walk around, you're feeling fully protected. What you can essentially do is you can ritualize that. You practice this a couple times and you put that into a specific ritual command. And when you need that protection, you basically trigger that command and that field comes back on. And that becomes quite powerful. You'll feel though, if you don't add more energy to that field, every now and again, it might diminish in its strength. So you want to just constantly keep that practice alive in order to use that ritual command. So the last thing I would say, and something that I'm working on right now, is once you are probably 3 to 5 years into your training, you can then access specific Kabbalistic formulas. And now this is operating at a much higher level, but this is, from my experience, like significantly a higher upgrade in terms of your psychic defense. It's a bit more accessible in terms of the use cases. It's like you're not spending so much time building it, but once you know the formula, you can access that and you can create these effects that is just phenomenal. There's different ways you can construct the formula to have different effects. So for example, if you want something to just be neutralized in your field, to just strengthen the field around you, but you can also create like a karmic mirror. So any offensive intention, any negative intention gets reflected back. And you can create a karmic mirror that reflects someone's negative intentions back tenfold, 100-fold. And you're karmically protected, and the person in offense gets a huge backlash of trying to do anything to you. This is where we're working more as a Kabbalistic alchemist. I hope that gives you an idea. I know it was a simple question, and I could have given you a very simple answer. Build a temple around you, build a light body. But you guys can probably get those answers anywhere else. You type it in Google or you see another YouTube video, but I don't think anyone would go into the type of detail that this video will go to. I hope it gives you something different. So with that said, if you have any other questions, and hey, maybe this video stirred up more questions than it does answers. But yeah, just drop us a comment below and we're happy to further discuss. And like always, please subscribe to support and continuing following us along on our journey of amalgamating the ancestral wisdom of the East as well as the West into our own unique healing modality and creating this cosmic blueprint for ascension. Take care. Bye.